This is Bobby Stein, traveling right now through Yazoo City, and today I'm going to read Peyton Prospere's essay from the May-June edition of Delta magazine. It's about being from the Delta, and it really touched me, so I thought I would go ahead and read this as the video unfolds. This is by Peyton Prospere, a native of the Mississippi Delta. A winter's drive south from Greenville down Highway 1 late in the afternoon is a serene pleasure. The flotilla of geese aloft in the cold sky, with light above and the blue vault evaporating over the levee, serves to release the spirit like a kite. The fallow land sketched in trees is snug, draped in shades of brown and gray at rest again. This sublime experience I've heard described as boring, mud-toned, land and sky dull. For such folk, I wish more fertile souls as I turn away, for encounters with Delta nature stirs my senses. This particular trip through Rolling Fork, Holly Bluff, and Satarsha, before turning onto Highway 49 toward my Belhaven home, also returns me to another place. After law school, it took years before I responded to "Where you from?" with Jackson. It was Greenville that had raised me and to which I lay claim. The river town was the Delta's bazaar, bustling with fine stores, towboats, writers, and the Carter's newspaper to help make sense of it all. There was nothing monochrome about Greenville at that time. A broad palette of ethnic backgrounds, faith traditions, and literary types won the description of cosmopolitan that was frequently applied. The four corners of Main and South Shelby Streets, occupied by City Hall, the Temple, First Baptist Church, and the William Alexander Percy Library, reflect this ecumenical quality. My school years were enriched by 5 Chinese Americans in my classes of 30 children, only later understanding the complex social relations they navigated outside the schoolhouse. St. Joseph's Catholic School was 2 short blocks from my house, filled with kids of Italian, Lebanese, and Irish ancestry, many from my neighborhood. Jewish merchants, lawyers, and professionals were a considerable presence downtown, and the Greenville Air Force Base stood just outside of town, bestowing a few cadets who decided to stay. My path out of innocence began at E. Bass Junior High School, whose estimable principal, Herman Solomon, had a profound influence on so many. Mr. Solomon arranged on the walls in the main hallway photographs of distinguished Greenvillians, mainly writers: Shelby Foote, Charles Bell, Ellen Douglas, David Cone, William Alexander Percy. The inference taken was that these people, who read and wrote, mattered. It was Mr. Solomon who responsibly led his school into desegregation in 1965, when I first made friends with black kids. A sage whose moral guidance endures, Mr. Solomon was a worthy mentor for anyone coming of age. Autumn then meant Ole Miss football games in Memphis, Oxford, or Jackson. The rhythm of riding to and through Delta towns as traffic thickened built our anticipation. Traversing the Delta, I felt that I had not truly left my yard until rising into the hills. Coca-Cola and nabs at Whitey MacArthur's and Mark's on the way to Oxford, or late-night cocoa with pie at the Blue and White and Tunica, returning from Memphis. Return to Cinder every third song on the jukebox deepened this sense of place for a young boy. The way home eased by the soft glow of traffic lights in Clarksdale, Rosedale, Benoit. At 15, I left Greenville for Episcopal High School in Alexandria, Virginia, traveling further into the world where early on I found myself adrift. The librarian, Mr. Finks, came to me that fall of 1967, book in hand, and said, "Read this." The book was North Toward Home, freshly published, an immediate connection home to Yazoo City and the Delta. Willie Morris captured the dissonance of feelings about our home in that fraught time that persisted and perplexed, the racial meanness side by side with the warm magnanimity. Willie's account of his leave-taking helped me settle in, and I stayed on. Although I first met Willie over a decade later, I always dated our friendship to that November in 1967. Aging now, I seek opportunities to return to that formidable landscape, whether 100th birthdays, golf tournaments, funerals, does, or even COVID vaccinations. I proudly took my jabs in Greenwood and, accompanied by Cynthia Williams Jordan, who made sure I came through upright, celebrated my second shot with lunch at the Crystal Grill, a fine evening meal at Gardina's, and a stay at the Alluvion. The Delta will always welcome the wayfarer, especially one of its own.